Hello, and you're very welcome along to another edition of the JMac podcast. I'm John McMahon, and of course, the podcast is kindly brought to you by orgarets.com. Use my promo code JMac podcast to get 15% off on their website. And tonight, I'm joined by Killian Whelan, Andriu, MacLochlainn, and Billy Lee to preview this weekend's Tailteann Cup Final between Kildare and Limerick. So, really look forward to the game this weekend and really look forward to chatting to these three gentlemen. Killian, how are you?
Good, John. Yeah, good to see you again, and great that we, I suppose, have a little focus now on the Tailteann Cup Final. I hate to use the term in front of men from the respective counties here, but it is, I suppose, a novel final. Probably wasn't the final that many people expected. Kildare probably have been ones that have always been thrown in somewhere in the favourites over the last 3 years, or definitely since the Tailteann Cup has been around anyway, and they've been in it. So, but look, I really respect Billy Lee. It was great to have him on the programme. Would have encountered him a few times over the years. He's probably not going to remember me, but definitely any time I remember with Limerick that Kildare might have been involved, we would have had a brief chat. So, look, really fascinated by Limerick football and what has ultimately been achieved there in making this Tailteann Cup final, which is a huge boost, I would imagine, to football, considering everyone talks about the hurlers and what they've done over the last number of years. But of course, great to have Mac on as well. Probably one of the most underrated cornerbacks in the country, and no question in his time. So great to have him with us here this evening. So two good characters to have on, John. In fairness, yeah.
Absolutely, absolutely. Billy, how are you?
All's good, John. All's good. Thanks, Killian. Hello, Andrew. Yeah, looking forward to the conversation, and we'll see how it rolls. Two intriguing matches at the weekend. Huge game, huge weekend for Limerick football.
Yeah.
And I suppose we'll get into it later. But we've had ups and downs over the last 6 or 7 years. But we're glad to be where we are at the moment, and me and the boys inside there are doing great work. So look, a lot of work being done on the ground in Limerick over the last 10 years or so, and parts of that are coming through now with the younger members of the squad that you'd have heard a lot of the older players refer to. And just a comparison to when I got young lads, I'll be able to explain that later on the podcast.
Absolutely. Last but not least, Andrew, how are you?
I'm excellent. A bit in shock after Killian's intro there. He must have got my Revolut. He's a hard man to get a compliment of.
Oh God, don't you know? How are you keeping?
Yeah, no, I'm excellent. Yeah, we're coming back there now from our under 14s club game we won, and under 10s won, and lovely even for football, so it was great. It's a great excitement in the county with the build up to this, and to be fair, there's been a good run in with our hurlers, doing so well during the year. I suppose the gauntlet was put down to the footballers to deliver in terms of performances. So it's good to be at this end of the season and have an actual silverware to compete for, in my opinion.
Oh yeah, without a doubt. Any silverware is good silverware, make no doubt about it. Suppose this is what we're here to talk about tonight, lads. The Tailteann Cup Final this weekend on Saturday the 12th of July. It's Kildare against Limerick in Croke Park at 2:30. And of course the game will be live on RT. But as I said to Killian during the week, it's vitally important everyone makes their best effort to get in for this game. And of course, obviously, as Billy said off air, the Kerry Tyrone game, the following game. So it'd be great if people can get in to the Tailteann Final as well and show the competition the sport it absolutely deserves. Well, I will start off with Billy tonight. Billy, Limerick's chances going into this game, and this is a huge opportunity for the Treaty County to win a national title in Croke Park in front of a couple of a good few thousand people. It's a massive opportunity, Billy, and one that Limerick people are no doubt looking forward to.
And yeah, it's a huge opportunity for the group and for the football organisation, the GA in general within Limerick. We've had many good days in Croke Park over the last 7 or 8 years, thanks to John and Paul and the group of hurling players we've had. So, look, hopefully we can emulate them now with the football side of things. And I think the last 18 months, the lads managing the team, have managed to turn it around. It kind of dropped off a bit, and in fairness to the players, they've all responded well to, Jimmy, Michael Cahill, Paranan, Evan Talty, and Owen Hagan. And they're turning around, they're enjoying their football. I've seen them in numerous games this year and playing every brand of football. And more importantly, the players are enjoying it.
I suppose, Billy, from your time managing the Limerick lads, what's the big change maybe from then to now, and what kind of changes can you kind of see from the setup from kind of the outside looking in?
Yeah, I suppose, look, I don't talk to Jimmy too much about it. He's got his own management team. You know, we talk very high level stuff about it. And I didn't want to be unfair on it when he took it on first, you know. So look, what I see with it mainly is that you've got a good blend of experience from a lot of the lads. You know, two of them that started out before I took on the team, and a lot of them that were there during my tenure. And that's coupled now with a lot of lads that are coming through the academy. The academy started, I think I was doing the 14 manager, I'm going to say 10 years ago. I don't maybe under 2015. And Paul Kinnerk was the main man there, and aided with Maurice Gavin, who was a former inter-county man, and a lot of work put into it over those intervening 10 years. We were in the Munster minor final there not too many years ago. Emmett Richter was centre forward in that team. Darragh Murray was centre field. Conor Dunan was wing forward. You know, so there's a number of them coming through. And Barry Coben was in the academy, and a lot of the younger lads are beginning to come through now. And I'd say probably the coaching they would have got at the academy has them better prepared. Now, look, as everyone know, when you step out of the club and into senior the county these days, there's a big journey to go at that point. But it just seems to me that we're a bit more educated in the knowledge of football and the tactical side of it. But then again, when you step up to senior, you have the strength and conditioning side of it, the commitment required. You know, you might be travelling 5 miles over the road, but now you might be in college, you might have to travel an hour and a half. So there's a lot more to it than people might see. It's not just a matter of training one night a week. It's where you're coming from, and then your nights after away from it and your recovery and all that. So there's a huge jump from club to county, but ultimately you'd see the benefit of the academy. So there's a lot of people been working on the ground over the last 10 years. And I think you're seeing the fruits of that now.
Mm-hmm. Killian, obviously this is a huge game for both counties, and Kildare, to be as well as Limerick, it'd be an unbelievable opportunity for Kildare to get a bit of silver on the board as well. So it's a huge game.
Yeah, well, I suppose we, as I alluded to the other night with you in the other podcast that we did, this is massive. This could be like, let's take Limerick for a minute. Everything that's been done at that academy, what a shot in the arm it would be to drive that on and to encourage the lads who are under 14, under 15, working there with Billy at the minute, down through the academies. Like, how important would that be? I use an analogy. I'm a good friend with Brian Lacey, and Brian often would say about, again, go back to Tipperary winning the Tommy Murphy Cup, that inspired the generation that ultimately got to the All-Ireland semi-final against Mayo. Like that's what you're talking about. I'm sure Billy and Jimmy would like immediate then, if to kick on then, and you have a chance at Sam Maguire, and maybe hold out with Sam Maguire next year and build on that, and you want something in the immediate 5 years. But like, who's to say it won't keep it, shooting for the moon here, and 10 years time, who you've let's say inspired along the way. And that, as I said, Tipperary got the likes of the likes of Jimmy Fien and Michael Quinlivan and these guys, who Michael Quinlivan went on and won an All-Star, don't forget, and he was a 12, 13-year-old when they won the Tommy Murphy Cup, so that's like, I really think we still need to promote this Tailteann Cup. I'm not sure there's a full shot in the arm on it, but the counties that have bought into it see the kick it's got. Look at what happened, ultimately Westmeath, Down, they've got a massive shot off it, and like Down should have been in an All-Ireland quarter-final. If things had worked out a little bit easier for them or better for them, they would have beaten Galway. So like this Tailteann Cup it needs to be taken seriously. I think it'd be a huge shot in the arm for Limerick and the next 10 years and what progresses. For me, the pressure is a little bit more on Kildare, and maybe I'm going to let Mac talk about it here, because I don't want to seem to be putting the boot in on Kildare here a little bit, because I think for maybe this group of players and maybe where the future is for them, there's a couple of guys there who are probably coming to the end of career. Will they stick it out to go again if they don't get out to Tailteann this year? What will it be kind of more the same? Everyone turn around then, Brian Flanagan and going, Asher, look, you didn't achieve anything more than what was achieved by previous managements. I think there's a little bit more pressure on Kildare here, and Kildare would have and maybe I'll be able to say this as a neutral, even though I live in the county, that that, you know, they have, let's say, for example, notions that they should be a Sam Maguire county and that they should be up there. And there's no question about it. Kildare you know, would have played a certain brand of football under Kieran McGeeney, were at the top table, and they feel they should be back up there. But they've been in the Tailteann Cup and they haven't been able to get out of it. So they have to give it due respect. And I think that's where Limerick might be able to, you know, psychologically buy into something here, that there's more pressure on Kildare, I think, John, than there will be on Limerick.
Yeah, points well made. Andriu, so your thoughts on all that?
Yeah, I wouldn't disagree with Killian in terms of there would be slightly more pressure. I'm actually glad of the way the semi-final went. I thought a lot of people took the opportunity to go very hard on Kildare, particularly on the commentary. One of the lads said he thought it was the worst game of football he's seen all year. And I think there has to be a lot of respect given to how poor the conditions were on the day, and you know, sometimes the atmosphere in Croke Park can be quite poor. It creates a vacuum of energy when there's that little people there, and I was just delighted that Kildare got over the line, because you get no reward, I think, or benefit from winning a semi-final really well. It'd be one of my fears for Kerry against Tyrone, because of their patch of 14 minutes there, or 10 minutes football, how well they played. So for me, the fact that we're coming not under the radar, but there's less razzmatazz around it because of maybe an underperformance in the semi-final. But in general terms, I agree with Killian in terms of that Kildare in general may not have given the respect to the Tailteann Cup that it deserves. And I'm a big believer in consistency. And if you're in Division 3, you deserve to be in Division 3. You can say you were unlucky in X, Y, and Z games, but on the basis of league football, you get normally what you deserve. And the fact that Kildare put a string of performances together this year that got the promotion, I was delighted for them. I think it's a massive achievement, because with the amount of new players and a different style of football that Brian and his crew were bringing in, it absolutely was an inconceivable that they actually did not get promotion at the start of the year when I was looking at it, that they would do well to stay in that division. So for them to treat the Tailteann Cup then with the respect it deserves, and with the focus that it requires, is hugely important, and they obviously have done that. So there has been a change in the psyche already with that group of players, to say this is where we are now. The best thing we can do here is try to put our best foot forward and go and get ourselves in a position to go and win that. They've done that. They can do no more to date until Saturday to see can they actually get the job done. It would be a massive platform. All you have to do is look what happened to Meath. They won in 23. Look what it's done for them as a springboard. Like, they're in an All-Ireland semi-final. They're probably kicking themselves that they didn't get over the line against Louth and have a Leinster title. Down the same, played so well from their win last year. I agree with Killian in that one again, where like they had serious opportunities against Monaghan. In that game, a lot of goal opportunities, but they played some serious football. The Monaghan game was the last one I seen, but they played some serious football, and they've used that as a platform. So, solely from a Kildare point of view, they have a hunger for this, and I don't think they're taking the competition for granted. And I do not believe for one second that the management team, knowing them well, would allow anyone to have notions and take Limerick for granted, because they've seen now what they can do. They, unlike Kildare, won their final. Kildare left that one behind them against Offaly. Sorry, I wouldn't. They didn't leave it behind them. Offaly bet them and deserved to beat them. You know, and getting over Offaly in Newbridge was a big big psychological thing, I think, for the team, having lost to them twice already. So yeah, look, I hope they can put together a more consistent performance, because what we've seen to date is some exceptional football, blowing a team out of the water for 10 or 15 minutes, getting a lead of 6 or 8 points, and completely falling asleep and allowing teams to come back in, because we had Louth bet out the gate and then we fell asleep and Louth went on to win that game. So that's my main concern for the game on Saturday.
And Andrew, obviously, talked to me about Brian Flanagan and the impact that he's had this year. And obviously, Brian played for Kildare for many years, great leader, obviously, no doubt, and a fantastic footballer. To boot, like he's had some impact. And obviously, with Glenn Ryan being there last year, another Kildare legend, Johnny Doyle, backroom team, so on and so forth, like big shoes to fill. But Brian's done exceptional.
Yeah, like I suppose I know Flanagan an awful long time. We saw each together underage and with senior team. We're actually even in college together. So he's a serious individual. He's got huge caliber. He always puts his best foot forward, but one of his best characteristics or traits that I think has made him a success today in the management role is his man management. And he's very good at getting to know players. And I would say he's learned a lot from Kieran. I haven't been involved with him. I know they're still close. And he really knows how to get the best out of certain individuals. And I suppose case in point would be his own clubman, Daniel Flynn. And Daniel has changed his game this year where no other manager previous to this had been able to get Dan to adhere to a game plan or more consistent performances. He's a lovely lad, and he's a fantastic footballer, but he was prone to going off script sometime. So I think that's one of his main strengths, and he's a very good man in the dressing room in terms of getting buy-in, and you can see that with underage and what they've done. They lost to an exceptional Tyrone team in their first 20s All Ireland. Anyone could have stepped away in that scenario. He dug in and he got the job done then against Sligo. So that was a phenomenal platform for him. But he surrounded himself with serious individuals. Like Aidan O'Rourke was a selector with us when we were with Kieran. He's a serious operator. You've Damien Hendy there, you've Darryl Flynn, all boys we would have soldiered with. Good team around him, and he's creating a culture in there in terms of you have to set standards, and Billy referred to that in terms of with their own academy and setting out standards for players that whilst they may be good footballers within their own clubs, playing inter-county football requires a different level of commitment and a different level of football intelligence, and you have to be able to show that you can do that, particularly when you're in the heat of battle, and not refer back to type and maybe what you can get away with just on your ability alone at club level. So there's a big step up. I think Brian's done a great job. And I think if you're looking at this year and you had his blank page in front of him, and if he said that, our goal was to get promotion, they've achieved that. I'm sure they would have wanted to go further in the Leinster and All Ireland series. That wasn't to be. So you're kind of rehashing then and go, okay, well, where do we go here from now? Well, it's our goal is to get to the Tailteann Cup Final and win it. And they've done part of that now, and to see if they can finish the job on Saturday.
Yeah. Absolutely, Andrew, make no doubt about it. And just moving on to you, Billy, I just need to, that's sorted. Just moving on to you, Billy, obviously the impact Jimmy has had on Limerick as well, it can't be questioned. And obviously the great work you've done with the Limerick lads, and you kind of said the last couple of years, maybe Limerick regressed a bit, but Billy or Jimmy really has done great work in the last couple of years there.
Oh, indeed. So I suppose I was just thinking there while Andrew was filling in there, of the Munster final team we were in 22, 4 of the defence that were on that are no longer available to Jimmy. The whole full back line is gone. The goalie is gone. That's 5, and one of the wing backs. You take one of the midfielders. What's that? That's 6. From 6 of the front 9 are gone. One of the forwards, two or three, two of the forwards gone. One of them has gone into goals. So it's a complete transformation, even though a lot of the lads within the squad are still there, like Killian, Ian, Tony McCarthy, Peter Nash, James Nocton, Danny Neville. We didn't have Danny, I don't think, in 22. He was overseas. So they've stabilised it, is the first and foremost. And like Jimmy will be good at that. So look, he's brought in, and Andrew alluded to it, very good people around him. Jimmy's got a very interesting life story, let alone football story, that I won't go into too much detail there, but he's really good at the managerial side of it, looking at standards, seeing down the line, and he's given Michal, open forum on the training ground from what I can understand. aided and abetted in by Paran, and Micheál Cal is coming out of Tailteann College. He's running that organisation up there, one of the people running it. Paz done the Tailteann, and then you've Evan Talty. So he's brought in really good people around him to do it. And look, Jimmy is HR. His background, well, it's funny, it's a long story, but he wound up being a HR and he's got a master's in it. So handling people and dealing with standards, he'll know inside out. And he lets the boys do the football and he does the rest of it, you know. So I think the thing is that he's stabilised it. They've had a lot of experience and then he's put faith in the young lads. You know, Tommy Childs in there. I had Tommy in, but I think Tommy missed out in 22. He just took the year out. And he's back in. Rob Childs was there as well at the time. So there's a lot of good experience coupled with, you know, good young lads that I've mentioned there coming through. Both that they picked them up at club and from the academy over the years. So they've done a really good job. You know, a tetchy start to the league. They felt they should have beaten Longford above, left the slip at the date, then were beaten by Wexford at home. And that was in the back of a poor year last year, you know. So in counties like us, it can quickly go from an upward to come. The plateau at the top of the mountain isn't very long. It could be only 10 feet and you're coming down the other side again, you know, if things go against you. And it's just to get that support behind you on the ground. Look, you know, I reckon we might have 5,000 people max at the match, but there's a lot of support on the ground. You'll see it on social media. Look, we would always think that football is the fourth field sport in Limerick behind rugby, soccer and hurling, you know. But that's not a problem. There's no point in that's just the way it is. But the support you get on the ground, you go through towns there at the moment and the buntings and the flags are out. So the support is on the ground, there's no question, you know. But I'd say we have about 5,000 up there supporting us, and the lads will get on with that. But they're enjoying their football, they're enjoying the setup, and you know, compared to when I took it on, and I think Jimmy had 16 lads go, I had 17 lads go in my first year, and then I asked, or 16, and then I asked 37 to come in, and none of them come in. And then you just go and get young lads, and we had to build it. And in the early days of then, I spent a lot of time actually. So Billy knows John, or John knows Billy, but they didn't really know each other. So we spent a lot of time working on the ground away from the field, a couple of times a year, you know, Christmas time, going to the races, whatever, just building the camaraderie and the stuff like that. And we did that for about 2 years, and then we left it off to the players to kind of continue that journey. We focused on the football a bit, and it started to roll in from 19 on into 20. Less so that's now because a lot of these young lads have been in the academy together. And while the lads are having a good banter and enjoying each other's company, I don't think they were doing what we were doing off the field to create the harmony within the group and for us to get to know each other and to get. So, like, Billy could be going to college. John didn't know that. John didn't know if Billy was working. There was no actual personal interaction while they knew of each other. So there was a lot of that had to be done in the early days. And I don't think that's quite as needed now, which tells you the progress we're making on the ground within. The Lavins are doing a lot of work there, following on from where Paul was with Mirish. And Jesus, there's some of the people working in the academy now that I wouldn't even know their faces. It's just beginning to spread a small bit, you know, within the county. And look, long may it last. And, you know, we've had our most successful hurling journey of all times. There was times I thought I'd never see an All-Ireland hurling. Now we've won 5 of them, and it's just been unbelievable. But in the midst of all that, we've had some really good times in the football to keep ourselves alive on the ground. You know, we've had 2 promotions out of the 4. We were promoted to Division 3, League Final 3, League Final in 4. The one we won was in COVID times. We had a Munster minor final, Munster senior final. We won the McGrath Cup, and while that might be what we beat Cork in the Gaelic grounds, and that was before a Cork versus Limerick, the Munster League we call it at the time. And the Limerick people began to come in for the hurling match, and it was a high scoring game. We were flying, and the support they gave us on the ground was just unbelievable when they got, and the momentum. And I suppose we caught the eye of people, so it was significant winning that from a point of view of showing the general public Limerick what the lads were capable of doing. And it wasn't Cork, you know, it was Cork, you know, that we beat in the final. So things like that helped along the way, and it's kept it alive. But I can't stress enough the work that's going on the ground with the academy and the effort that people are putting in. So look, we just need to keep our heads. There's no doubt about it. It'll give us momentum going into next year. Whether all the lads will stay or not, I don't know. But look, it'll give them. They'll bounce into next year's their 3rd journey in Croke Park this year. They've been enjoying their journeys to Croke Park. They're embracing the challenge and they're playing on the front foot. And look, Kildare will be, there's one thing you'll always say about Kildare teams, and they're all big and strong and mobile and athletic. So they have the size, the physique, the capability. So they just got to build that consistency. Andriu, at the next level is where they want to be, and so that's where they're aiming to go under Brian, I've no doubt. And their talent, that's where they should be realistically, So look, more luck to them, but maybe not on Saturday.
Killian, do you want to jump in there?
Yeah, like listen to both men there, and there will be a lot of similarities in the management teams in some ways, and Brian would be very good at obviously giving control to other lads to be involved in coaching, as obviously we've heard it from Billy about Jimmy. So there'll be, as I said, just maybe similar plays in action on the sideline, but everything should point towards Kildare winning this game on the basis of, the experience of a number of lads there that Brian has obviously brought in. Like, he's revamped the team as well, similar to obviously what Jimmy had to do in Limerick. But he's brought in lads who have been winners of an All-Ireland under-20 title. Kildare might have been guilty a number of years back when they won. And on the first, was it the first, even second All-Ireland under-20 title overall, that not enough of those guys progressed. If they did, they didn't show an interest of maybe getting to the level that they needed to be. Now, one guy is the fullback on Saturday evening will be Mark Dempsey. He was part of that first All-Ireland under-20 team, and he probably has had loads of experience at Sigerson level and whatever. So, he's a guy that obviously wants to be at the top reach. But Brian has brought a number of lads into that Kildare team, as he said, that have, the likes of Ryan Sinky, like Colm Dalton, coming from a club that, wouldn't be playing senior club football, senior championship football, in Sallins. Tommy Gill, probably Carberry would be, but they wouldn't probably be one of the top considered teams. Maybe if people were naming out teams, I'm not sure Carberry would be probably in the first four if you were calling out clubs in Kildare, So, and then you marry the experience of, say, Kevin Feely. Brian Byrne would have hurled with Kildare for a long number of years, turned his hand to football, always has been a great dual player, but then turned to the football and probably just decided to try the football because he reached a certain level with the hurling. Probably looking at the way the hurlers achieved this year, he's probably a little bit put out by that, but still, I'm sure if he wins an All-Ireland title on Saturday evening, he'll have one to join with the lads. But I just like the way Flanagan has married experience, as Andrew rightly pointed out, getting Daniel Flynn to stay on script has been a big thing as well. But then, the experienced lads there as well that are continuing to drive it. However, on the Limerick side of things, you have seen a rebuild, but you've also, as Billy has alluded to, lads have come through the academy, and you have the experienced heads there, the likes of Josh Ryan and Ian Corbett. They're going to be vital, I would imagine, in the next 48 hours, just in bringing those lads along. They have competed in games, and, Billy might be able to remind me, I remember the 2012 game in Portlaoise, an All-Ireland qualifier, came down to, was Emmett Bolton, was he out over the line at the far end, and then Kildare worked the score, wasn't it, all the way down the pitch to take that game,
Yeah. Do you know who the ball got into the corner?
Go on.
Ian Corbett. Ian Corbett sat down. He was playing that night. He's phenomenal. I mean, this man is just an out and out. So unassuming. When this man walks away from it, people won't even know he's alive. He's an unbelievable character. But
Ian Corbett, yeah, class, yeah.
But like there's a guy, Billy, 2012, and has probably reinvented his game as well. Would have been a very good forward. Now, managing the house centre back. I just think himself and Josh, they could be two big characters, as I said. When you're on that bus heading into Crow Park, they've been lads who've been there on big occasions. They could be. I'm sure there's others, but I'm just two I'm thinking of.
Yeah, look, Ian will be sitting down there, most of be over his ears, and he'll be trying his eyes to heaven for fellas are getting excited. He could nearly be asleep. He's just an unbelievable. Like, he doesn't say anything. But by God, when he says something, the drifts on the hairs in the back of your necklace thing, and he doesn't talk it. He just walks it, and that's always been his mantra. An unbelievable mother, like, driving him, supporting him, and just unbelievable. You'd have to see the everyday stuff with this guy to know the leader he is, and it's by actions, it's in by words. But when he does talk, I tell you something, you go through a wall for him. But I just remember back to that match in Port that day. I'd had the terrace in the fast side wound up. But we were only a Holland county and you can't pay us and all that. We some back in the stand that night. And a fellow, Declan Brewer, he's managed you well there. He says, we don't stop, we'll get us killed. But we had a great crowd, great support. And it went to the extra time and I got my
time, yeah.
But what a game that was.
Oh, 2012. Don't remind me, Cavan's fans. So, Killian, we'll not go down that road.
No. This is not a Cavan podcast here now, John. Yeah, come on now.
We'll not go down that road. Touchy subject. Andriu, Daniel Flynn. I have been harping on about him for the last couple of weeks, the last couple of years with Killian. He is a wonderful, wonderful talent. You've obviously got to playing against him. He's such a good leader for Kildare over the years. What a player, what a man.
Yeah, look, I suppose the big thing for me with Dan is that he's been playing this year and he deserves credit for it because it's not his natural way of playing, but he's playing now realizing that he is one of 15, and like there is no one more important than the team. And it's not that Dan thinks that, but just his natural way of playing, he's just so aloof. And Dan could be on the sideline and just see a gap and go, I might go for goal here, and that's just the way he plays. He's got exceptional acceleration. Oh, when he was in with us at the very start, he hadn't fit into his frame, so you could kind of bully him a bit, even though he was a big guy. Like there's another guy there, his twin terrorists, and Hurley, and the two boys were mounted them men for young lads, but they just hadn't fit into their bodies yet. And now Dan is exceptionally strong with the S&C that he's done, and he's going to be. I just think him and Dara Kerwin are such big men that for any team, obviously it's Limerick's problem now on Saturday, but any team. I love the part of Gaelic football and management and coaching. I love his matchups, and I loved it when I was playing as well. Getting the matchups right, and one of Kieran's big things, and he's probably one of the first managers or only manager that really kind of brought it home to me, is that if you wanted to play on his team, you had to be comfortable playing anywhere in the backs, and. No, I played all my football underage with Kildare centre back, but when I started with Kildare, a slot open in the corner, and I was lucky enough that Ken Doyle retired, who was an exceptional footballer, and I got in. And Killian mentions Brian Lacey there. Brian Lacey took me under his wing and taught me how to play cornerbacks. I never played there, but now lads have to be interchangeable, and for Limerick, they're going to have to find two defenders to mark these guys who are huge in size but have pace, and then you have Ryan Slinky in the corner, who's only a young guy but an exceptional left foot, and plays like a young lad who has no fear, doesn't mind shooting. So there's a massive matchups, and I suppose the half forward line for Kildare is very strong, and it's been playing consistently well, but you can't really look too far past Alex Byrne in terms of, I think he's an exceptional footballer. And I suppose even at the start of the year when I seen him playing against Kula, he just had a phenomenal game. And the stuff he was doing to drag his team back into the game, and he's a really consistent player. So the matchups for Limerick are going to be really interesting for them. And from a Kildare point of view, obviously we used to get our matchups right in the backs, and it'll be interesting to see if Flano, sticks with playing. Killian mentioned Brian Byrne in the half back last time, because he's playing Ryan Burke and Harry O'Neill in the corner. But Brian had been playing a lot of the games in the corner up to this, so it'll be interesting to see what way he picks his half back line. And obviously, James McGrath has just been in exceptional form, and his goal against Offaly when we needed it was just his power and his change of direction to finish with his left foot. We needed it badly, and he stepped up, and obviously he scored the last day again, and it was needed, but he just had the confidence to take it on, and he's a very powerful runner getting forward. So there's loads of really interesting matchups, which I think is the most interesting thing, and I do believe whichever manager gets most of them right, it does tend to have a significant outcome on the game. And look, we've seen with the hurling for the last weekend, goals win games, and oh, it'll be interesting to see which team can keep the scoreboard ticking, and but also add goals that just kind of tend to kill off teams a little bit.
Yeah, that's going to be very, very interesting. I suppose, like, on the game itself, Billy, it's a big task for Limerick, but look, they'll no doubt have a lot of confidence going into this game. But from Jimmy's point of view, what does he need to do this weekend to take Kildare down?
Well, I think it'll have to start with ourselves. Reassure lads. It's a big day. It's not Kildare over the years to Andrew, his team with Killian and the lads. They'd have played in Leinster finals, big days in Croke Park, it's probably Dublin and so forth. So, that occasion won't. Daniel Flynn's been there, Kevin Feely's been there, and a couple of others. It's just a big day. It's got a lot of notoriety because the hurlers are no longer involved in the championship. So a lot of it will be just keeping that focus until and let the management talk about the matchups and so forth and plans. They'll know that a lot of that at this point. But a lot of it will be just managing, the noise. Now, a lot of our leaders, we're talking about Ian Corbett, James Naughton, Danny Neville, Tony McCarthy, Killian Fahy. These fellas are very laid back. They will not be getting excited. They're very calm, comfortable guys around a long time. And that's just their personality anyway, outside of a football field. Killian Fahy, you wouldn't hear him talk behind, he's a teacher. I don't even know how he talks in the school. He's really quite articulate young man. Danny is quiet. They'll talk if required. So I think we've got good. There'll be no excitement from that point of view, and everyone will take the cue from the boys on the journey. So then it comes down to the matchups. And look, if you look at our semi-final against Wicklow, we struggled a bit in midfield on the day. Dean Healy and Pádraig O'Toole, two big games. Now Tommy had a fierce fight, and Tommy, I've never had Dara O'Hagan, so I don't know a whole pile about him other than the games I've seen, but I'd have a lot of faith in Tommy Childs. He comes from good country, John Quan country, and they don't lie down over there. So he's about 6'5", so I wouldn't fear Tommy high up or low down. But that's probably an area that I would think that Kildare will target based on what they saw in the semi-final. If you look at the scoring, I think the stats somewhere today, on average Kildare scored 220 and we scored 121. We've conceded 116, they've conceded 16. They ain't much in it. And it's back to what Andrew said. 121 is 22 scores, 220 is 22 scores. The 220 wins by 2 points. So it's not going to be that tight if teams turned up. Now, look, a lot of teams we would have come across Bar Westmeath, with maybe Division 4 teams this year. Probably Kildare probably played a bit, one or two more at a higher level. Fermanagh, Offaly. They play Sligo as well, am I right? They played Leitrim and Tip. Was the Sligo the third team in the group? Yeah. So we have Division 3 teams there. But look, we've never ever beaten Westmeath. Ever. Until this year, and we played some beautiful football in the first half there against the Breeze. Westmeath grabbed hold of the game. I'm going to say 15 minutes to go, 12 minutes to go, and we wrestled it back off them. So, lads, what I will say is Kildare, no question about it. They have the tradition in terms of being the number one game in the county. They've got a lot of physique, and Daniel Flynn is a handful. And if he's tuned in, as Andrew saying and Killian is saying, he's going to be a handful for any defence, let alone Limerick's. So they'll have all that going with them. But there's one thing for sure and certain, they're going to have to play for 70 minutes to beat our lads, because our lads don't die. And, we got a break against young Jackson made the slip again for the goal, and we were there to take the chance. But we were still 4 points down at that stage.
Yeah. Ian
Corbett taken off, then Eamon Richter had gone off, and James Naughton. You'd say 3 of our top 5 players, without a question of doubt, 3 of our top 5. And with Richter and Corbett, you'd say top 2 maybe. Right, and young lads come in and they took it to them. We give them. They then got a penalty to you would say wrap the game, and Josh made a miraculous save and got a bit of luck. But the lads, we were still a point down at that stage and went and did it. So I don't have any fears about that. That our lads will put their best foot forward. I will go back to the Munster final in 22, and before we went out the field, I knew what was going to happen, because the bit of excitement in the lead up to it and lots of things going on in the background had led to our poor performance there. We chance that we weren't going to beat Kerry, right? But we would have performed better. And I remember saying on the interview afterwards that I had no fears of us going to Cork to play on Cork in the qualifiers. And we were very unlucky that the black card that undid us. Morris Deegan deemed one of our lads. And in that point, Cork pulled away from us. So I'll have no fear of the lads putting on the foot forward, going at it, enjoying their football, enjoying the occasion. Kildare just have to play for 70 minutes to beat us. That's what I would be saying.
You're starting to worry, Andriu, I think, Billy.
No, I completely agree with him, because
Yeah.
it's what we haven't. We've shown that group of players are talented and they are very athletic, and the pace is frightening within the team, and big open fields suit us, dry days suit us. The last day in the semi-final was a shocking wet day, and you can see the style of football that some of the guys like to do, and in how they like to step around in the tackle, and the lost possession. We slipped a lot. We did a lot of turnovers, and we've shown that we can actually do it, and we've put big leads up on teams in all of the games, but we've also allowed teams to come back into it. And I completely agree with Billy. One of the most impressive things about Limerick in that semi-final is that Wicklow were home and hose, 7 points, and any breaking ball that was there went against Limerick. But the boys didn't fall away. They didn't down tools. They still obviously had belief in themselves and in a group, which is obviously that's what galvanizes teams, and that's what made them win. And the save, was huge. The 2-pointer from the wing was huge, and same man. Like, so they played phenomenal football, and they dragged themselves back into a game and got it over the line. But even when they got their goal, like, there was 4 points in it, but then the penalty, most teams would have said, it's not our day. And my fear for us is that I do believe if we put the 70 minutes together, we will win. I'm a Kildare man, I'm going to say that, but I do think it's there. But we haven't done that. Like, we allowed Offaly back into the game the last day, just managed to get it out. We allowed Louth back into that game in Newbridge.
And that probably is the big concern, Andrew. Like, and I was having this conversation with Killian and some of the rest of the lads that, when Kildare do get into these positions inside of Croke Park, nerves do play a big factor. And
they're so young, John. There's like,
yeah, but like
there is only a handful of lads with experience, and that's the problem, that their game management isn't there in its completement. And look, this is the development. This is part of the journey that we're on in Kildare that we have to accept. We're seeing progression, which is all we can ask for. But on Saturday, it's another test, and I do believe they can get the job done. But it's going to be a cracking game, I believe.
Fingers crossed.
Two things about me. Look, I've no doubt Ian will be sharing his experience of the 2012 game, when we weren't expected to be anywhere near Kildare on the day, and we were only seconds from getting over the line that day.
I remember, Billy.
So he'll be saying to the lads, let's get under their skins, get at them, and he'll be driving that in his way. And it's not alone that he's lived that dream, so to speak, and proven it that it can be done. And we've played Kildare over the years. I remember when I was involved with Liam, got be good to him. We took on Kildare in Newbridge, and there wasn't much in it either. I can't remember. We didn't have the fear of it, like. So Limerick won't fear Kildare. No, you've got to go and do the job then after that. And that's why I'm saying that the lads, I suspect, will focus on themselves and just keep it that they're putting their best foot forward and let it go whatever it goes after that. So imagine if that's a somewhat inexperienced team to other Kildare teams. I think that'll be huge, so that when they get into a winning position, and we're coming at them, that they can mentally, that's going to be big. At some point in Saturday, that's going to be big for Kildare, for them to get over the line. And, if they can manage that from a winning position, if they're in that at some point, that'll set them in great stead going into 2026, because they'll have lived and breathed the challenge of facing a team coming at them who'll be going at them hard,
Yeah, experiences everything, Billy. As I say, Killian, what are you thinking? Who's going to get the job done here?
Unless Billy's going to give us an exclusive here, I think JMac, that injury he picked up in the semi-final, if that's cleared up, I think we're in for a cracker, and it's going to come down to the last couple of minutes. If James is not on the field, I think it's a little bit harder for Limerick. You would imagine Kildare, with the experience heads that they have, they should be able to get over the line. But they still have that little gnawing thing in the brain, John, that, I think this would be a huge psychological victory. If Kildare win this could be massive for going forward. Absolutely massive. Because you've gone to Croke Park, you've put 2 wins back to back in 2 big All-Ireland Championship games. It could be huge for that particular group. And I think that's something that Brian Flanagan may not be putting us on the pressure on the players, but I think in the background we'll be thinking this could be massive for this group of lads going forward. Absolutely. So I think Kildare have enough to be able to do it on the basis of obviously that they've played their trade in Division 3 and that they would have had lads who have played on big occasions in Croke Park. But also Kildare in recent years, John, in Croke Park, going for silverware, it hasn't gone well either. You know, and don't forget, only this year, Limerick won their Division 4 title in Croke Park. Kildare lost the Division 3 final. That still is the one thing that bugs me, that maybe there's still that little scar tissue that's hanging around, and that maybe lads who haven't unfortunately been in the team have picked up on that. I think that some of those senior players are just going to have to let that go and just go all out for this and be able to kick on. I think it's going to be close if James Naughton is on the field. If he isn't, I think Limerick's ability is going to an awful lot of other things are going to have to work for them, John, to win it. But I still think it's going to be right in the melting pot when it hits 70 minutes, no question.
Absolutely, lads. We're really looking forward to it. Andrew, any kind of more final thoughts before we go?
Yeah, I'm surprised if Killian's still talking to you, or is it Billy? Because he was slagging Morris Deegan there, and you can't do that around Killian, you know. sorry, Killian. I hope I didn't upset you there. Now,
I've
he doesn't
no
referee
problem.
any more games anymore. I can give him an old dig when I see him in the shop.
Oh yeah, I've no problem with anyone digging at Morris Deegan. He hit me a few digs in a few matches over the years, so no problem at all.
I agree with Killian. Look,
anyway, I believe, because I didn't have to see the thing, but everyone taught me afterwards it was a complete, and I'm talking about neutrals now as much as anybody else, because it was on television the same day. It was I'm a good saw it. Anyway, it doesn't matter. Listen, there's no one dead. One other thing I'd say, John, and maybe lads, that in the lead up to the game, how Brian handles the day is going to be huge for Kildare.
Sorry, Billy. Do you want to just
Andrew? He obviously knows.
Sorry, Billy. Do you want to just connect your camera again? I just can't see you. Would that be okay? Would that be?
I've no idea. It would be if I knew how to connect it. I don't know. I just plant it and don't ask me how
Is there camera?
I have no idea. But anyone who knows about the technology, my strong point.
Ask the start video. Oh, there we go. Perfect. We can see again. There he is.
Something came up there and I just pressed yes. So don't ask me, lads. Don't ask me. But anyway,
technology, Billy. Technology.
But I won't use any language on mother of God, it does my head in. It works, but asking to make it work. What I say is Brian's whole demeanour today, because obviously there's pressure in Kildare and expectation in the county, and if they're not seen to be beaten, you'll have plenty of supporters on the ground, and they're in every county. They'll be mouthing, and it's only Limerick and all this, that, and the other. It's no longer as simple as that. A lot of the playing field has levelled out across the county because of the preparation. And I would say that Limerick have always had great footballers, over the years. We may never have the numbers or the depth. And other people will, look, that's true for every county, right? So people on the ground, that's only Limerick and all this, that. He'll know what's going on. We all know what's going on, right? So if he can handle that side and just not get, show that to the boys and, encourage them to go and play, that'll be a huge thing. But that's a pressure Brian's carrying it that Jimmy isn't as much. Jimmy can just, right, boys, off you go. It's like the greyhound going out after the hare, It's a different ball game, and that's going to have a big psychological whole thing, how it filters out to the players, And I'm not putting pressure on Brian by saying, I'm just saying that as a matter of fact, that's no Andrew, no Brian, and that's going to be significant,
Yeah, it is interesting. That's the key part of it. I do think there is only a sprinkle of experienced guys that are in the starting team. You think of Hilo from Athy, he's having an exceptional year, scored a big goal for us when we needed it. So there is, and obviously Kevin Feely. So there is a few lads there. Daniel Finn's been around for a while, but Derek Kerwin and the boys, there's a few lads who have been here for a while and really need to establish themselves now in terms of the way they have done for their clubs in Naas, for example. in big competitions. But there's a lot of youth through that team, like a huge amount of youth through that team who are used to winning and will relish this opportunity in playing. And it's very rare that you get a second bite of the cherry to get one over your local rivals, and you didn't have to wait to the following year having bet Offaly. And that was a big thing for me, that they got over the line against them. The semi-final performance doesn't really concern me, if I'm honest, at all. It wouldn't worry me. But I do hope that we open the legs up and use the pace and the direct attack. For me, I've always preferred going down the throat of a team, and if they have their structure set up, okay, then work your systems to get your score. But I like being aggressive and I like going after a team, and I do feel Brian has that courage and bravery to set his team up to allow them that freedom to attack a team. And every team's going to get their proper patch, and Kildare are going to have to weather their storm. For me, they are on a journey, and part of that now is realizing that they will make errors and they're not the finished product. But we've made huge strides this year. I'd be very proud of the lads and what they've done. It would be galvanizing for them, and I think it would be a massive springboard if they can get the job done and get their hands on silverware. I just think it would just propel their progression forward exponentially. So I do hope it'll be a win, and for me, I think it'll be Kildare by about 3 or 4 points.
Yeah, the other thing I'd say, I agree completely with Andrew. The day above Crop Palace semi-final, the weather was shocking. It was just horrendous stuff, like, and no one's going to play on the front foot in those conditions. It was absolutely biblical stuff at times, So to be fair to both teams on the day like that, obviously when the Dara Kevin came on and did wreck there for the time, but like the weather was just horrendous. I remember we were left some bit of time and gone down the road and down there by the finish path. It was just unbelievable rain falling, So and that's true. And look, I think Leinster football needs Kildare back at the top table. Not that, in general, Dublin have had the roof there for so long. Meath are back there now. You'd think and you'd hope, and it'd be great to see Kildare Offaly are building, and it'd be great if that could happen. To give that a bit more competition within provincial championships.
Yeah,
we are as a bit of a struggle at the moment. I mean, Cork haven't won a Munster championship since I think 2012. That is hard to fathom, like. So look, they haven't been in the Munster final since 2021 when Tip beat 2021 when Tip beat them. Clare, we've been in one to follow one, and Clare been the last 3. So basically they're back at the top. They're really going out, like, not too many years ago they were, like, so. But look, as I say, we wish them well in the long term, but not in Saturday. Sorry, Andrew.
Brilliant stuff, lads. Brilliant stuff. Well, that's a great way to finish up. Well, Andrew, Killian, Whelan, and Billy Lee, thanks a million for joining me this week. And of course, the podcast is kindly brought to you by orgarech.com. Use my promo JMac podcast to get 15% off on the website. Billy, the very, very best luck. Andrew, the very, very best luck. And Killian, the very best of luck watching all the games over the weekend as well. Lads, thanks a million.
Thanks, John.
from August.
Thank you very much, guys. Cheers. Bye.